Another day and some more Fallout 76 news. What I'm going to be looking at in this video is the latest Inside the Vault article. This was recently posted by Bethesda and actually gives us a pretty good look at what they're doing in the future. But even beyond that, I want to talk about Fallout 76 sales numbers. This is something a lot of other outlets have talked about, and I feel like there's actually a lot of misinformation and wrongful coverage about this. And hopefully in this video, I could highlight some of that and actually give you some of the facts we do know about how many copies Fallout 76 sold. And then actually a really important duping glitch that I think you should be aware of. If you guys do enjoy the content, you can subscribe. We are getting fairly close to 400,000 subscribers, and I am also working on that cooking video. But even beyond that, January is just around the corner, and I definitely have a lot of cool videos I plan on posting for that month. Definitely a lot more experimental content. But starting things off, looking at this latest Inside the Vault article, this is actually posted on December 19th, the day we got that most recent update or hotfix to Fallout 76, actually bringing some nice changes. I made a video on that. It seemed like it didn't get pushed to everyone, so if you missed it, you can click on the little I right now. But in this, they basically say that 2018 is coming to a close. But in this, they do share some of their plans for 2019 and looking ahead. So this past December 19th update will be the last one of 2018, and they say in this, the next update will probably be somewhere in mid-January. Considering they almost always release these updates on Tuesdays, it'll probably be something like January 15th. Although they do mention they still are working on things behind the scenes. So the way I interpret this is any of the presently available bugs, glitches, or exploits in the game probably will be there for the next 3 weeks or so. They actually do name a few specifics as to what's going to be updated though, such as a fix for the lever action rifle, which is a big change I'm excited for. With the lever action in this game, basically if you fire once and have one bullet missing then try to reload, you'll reload all 5 shots. In Fallout 4, people just kind of put up with it, there was mods to fix that, but in Fallout 76, this is especially curious because the pump action shotgun, which seemingly would work in the same way, actually doesn't. If you fire once, you just reload one shot. So it looks like that is actually getting implemented also with the lever action, but also they say they're going to be fixing some perk cards and dealing with the crowd control at the White Springs. Basically that robot army that can be spotted there, although with this past update, that seemed like it was fixed for me. I checked it a couple days ago, hung out there for 5-10 minutes, there wasn't any oddities. I did it again for this video, still no oddities. So hey, who knows, maybe it was only fixed on PC, maybe some rogue dev fixed this and nobody realized that Bethesda's community team. And what I think is one of the best and biggest changes coming with these patch notes is we understand that sometimes the patch notes themselves aren't enough and you want to know why we're making certain balance changes or adjustment. Beginning in 2019, patch notes will include some brief thoughts from our developers that hopefully give the community more insight into the changes we're making and why. So this is awesome, and actually if you guys remember, a couple of weeks ago I said exactly that in a video. This was particularly when we were getting all of those workshop changes and nerfs to workshops, and it was kind of like, why? Why do you think this is a necessary addition to the game? Bethesda including their own thoughts and opinions as to why they're making these changes is going to be a huge insight as to, well, why we're getting them. And hopefully going forward, as the game does get less and less buggy, there will be more balance changes and tweaks to things in that regard, so I think this will only be more and more relevant. The example I gave in the past and that I'll use right now is League of Legends. I think they do this arguably the best, showing explicitly what is changed, like what actual value is changed, not just like a buff to damage on this ability. And they also, on every single one of those changes, include their reasoning and rationale for why it's occurring. If Bethesda could come even close to that, I will be very, very happy. But they also mention a new mode for the game. So I'm not entirely sure what they mean by that, but basically they describe it as a new mode where you can work together or not without PvP restrictions. They said they're having a lot of fun playing it behind the scenes and it'll hopefully come out in the first quarter of 2019. And if you're unfamiliar, the first quarter is January, February, March. So fairly soon in the next 3 months. Although knowing Bethesda, this very realistically could come out on March 30th. So I'm pretty curious as to what that's actually going to entail. We've seen some of these vault dungeons, but typically with those vault dungeons, it seems like you actually went in with a team, like explicitly the team or squad you're actually a part of in game, and then you could actually not enter while another squad or team's in there. And based off even the brief description they gave of this new mode, it doesn't seem like it's that. But considering there is the option for PvP, it must be some kind of PvE event, basically you fighting enemies. That pretty much wraps it up for the Inside the Vault. We also do know there's going to be a plethora of other DLCs coming out in 2019, so hopefully we'll hear more and more of that starting in the new year. So then let's move on to the Fallout 76 player count. Again, this has been the topic of a lot of discussion from a lot of people, both YouTubers, news outlets, outlets and even the community themselves. A lot of data has been recently published as far as game sales go for the month of November, the month Fallout 76 came out. First and foremost, as far as concrete numbers go, it seems like Fallout 76 has sold at least 1 million copies or had at least 1 million players. In one of the previous Inside the Vault articles, they actually say millions of you are playing the game and playing it a lot. But outside of that, it's the only thing we've actually heard from Bethesda themselves. Although another really popular source for how many people are playing Fallout 76 is this website known as GameStat or GamStat, and really it's using the larger data from PlayStation numbers. Not too long ago, PlayStation launched this thing known as My PS4 Life, in that you could actually get this little video of all stats cartel to you. One of the particularly interesting ones being that if you have, let's say, a rare trophy, that being like an achievement on PlayStation, it'll say how many people also earn that. Some of these trophies being for Fallout 76. So through this video, you could see a player count. Through the PlayStation trophy system itself, you could actually see what percent of people who own the game actually earned that trophy. So with those two numbers, you could calculate how many people own the game in total. Like let's say the trophy is only held by 5% of players and it says there's only 5,000 people who earn this trophy. You can figure out that the game has a total of 100,000 players on PlayStation, or people that own the game. This grants people the ability to very accurately see how many people own the game on PlayStation. And for that reason, a lot of people have been looking at the Fallout 76 number that originally was 400,000 using this exact technique. Although the problem is, and the thing a lot of people aren't talking about, these numbers are actually from early to mid-November. So it seems like those player count numbers are more of a snapshot. They're not updated in real time, while the percentages you could see with trophies are updated in real time. So those numbers were a snapshot from the middle to late of November. Fallout 76 coming out in the middle of November, it makes those numbers not nearly as accurate as some people are saying. So much so that the website GameStat actually pulled Fallout 76 and Battlefield, since both of them came out in that time frame. So that's not to say that number isn't wrong. Obviously, for the middle of November or so, Fallout 76 had 400,000 people which bought it. This would be lower than both Fallout Shelter and Fallout 4 on PlayStation by quite a lot. But of course, those games have been out for over 3 years, so they had a lot of time and a lot of legs. But even beyond that, there actually are some other numbers that were recently published giving a more complete look, not just at PlayStation, not just at physical copies sold, but at all copies sold. This is coming from SuperData, which is basically a market research or market intelligence company. Basically, they calculate these numbers, share them with other people so they know how well or badly things are selling. And just a couple of days ago, they actually published their worldwide digital games market for November 2018. And in this, they cite that Fallout 76 sold 1.4 million digital units across both consoles and PC. By comparison, the same company 3 years ago said that Fallout 4 actually sold 1.87 million units in the first 3 days. So that would put Fallout 76 quite a bit behind Fallout 4. I don't think anyone is shocked by this, especially considering I imagine a vast majority of these game sales come in the first couple of days. I think most people that are going to buy it are going to buy it immediately. So as far as the legitimacy of these numbers or how this company is actually getting this inside scoop, in the About Us page, they do say they have proprietary data partnerships where they collect point of sale and event data from publishers, developers, and payment service providers. As of right now, Bethesda hasn't released any digital numbers, so even these I would take with a grain of salt, but at the same time they definitely fit in. There were other numbers reported on by NPD, which basically put Fallout 76 as the 4th bestseller for November, and this other data from SuperData totally coincides with that. But again, I think it's pretty important to take all of this with a grain of salt. Unless the numbers are coming from Bethesda themselves or even Xbox or Sony, I don't think they're necessarily going to be super accurate. And then last but not least, we do have this duping glitch. So Fallout 76 has had numerous duping glitches across its lifespan, and one of them wasn't fixed with this latest update. A duping glitch was fixed in the past update, but this one wasn't. And based on what I said earlier in this video with Bethesda's no updates for 3 weeks or so, this one might be here for a while. But it seems like this is actually causing great server instability, and this is actually being reported on by some dupers themselves. I've actually had a couple of people contact me saying that they're doing this glitch, and after doing it, it actually leads to server crashes or a lot of lag on servers. This is because it's, well, copying all of the items this person has, and that's a lot of data getting processed all in kind of an instant. So I mean, if you are the type of person to do a duping glitch, maybe you don't particularly care about that. And alternatively, I bring this up because if this is something you want to be fixed, fixed, or if the community as a whole wants to be fixed, you're gonna have to make some noise about it. Based on that Inside the Vault, it doesn't seem like there's any planned updates anytime soon, and Bethesda thus far hasn't really done just off the bat hotfixes. They only did it on one occasion, and that was for a much more serious issue with the game, people not being able to launch it. And actually, there's one final story that just kind of popped up as I was editing this. It seems like Amazon has Power Armor editions back in stock. It seems like as of right now, you could actually order it for just $200 plus shipping, of course. But if you really did want this edition of the game, it seems like maybe some of those returns ended up going through. Apparently, Amazon has had a pretty good return policy for Fallout 76. But otherwise, yeah, that's pretty much going to wrap it up for this video. Hopefully you did find it informative. I think what Bethesda does with Fallout 76 in 2019 will be very telling as to the lifespan of this game. I think a lot of people are getting kind of bored or sick of it. I have to imagine the player count is only declining. But with the implementation of some of these new game modes, I could see myself and probably a lot of you jumping back in even to just try it out. Plus, they have honestly fixed a lot of the bugs. It definitely is in a much better state than it was on release, although that's not saying much at all. But before we end things off, I do want to share today's psychology fun fact of the day. That's going to be on the power of initial impressions. So basically, there's this phenomenon specifically studied in like social psychology. Like let's say when you meet someone or become acquainted with a brand or their product, the initial impression can serve as a guiding factor for all future impressions of that thing. So let's say you meet somebody and you find out they are very nice, and then somebody else comes along and they're like, oh no, he's actually really not that cool of a dude. You may have trouble processing that information or even try and downplay it. Or even on future interactions with that guy, you consistently view him in a high light, even if maybe he doesn't deserve it based on his explicit behavior. This is the role of initial impressions and how they're affecting how you're processing future information on that person. This isn't a permanent thing, it just typically acts as more of a hurdle. So if you do have a positive first impression, it might be a bit more difficult for you to eventually accept that that thing is negative, or even that person isn't as great as I originally thought. It's just something important to keep in mind or in the back of your head, how big of a role first impressions do play, or even the opposite. Let's say you do have a negative first impression and in the end the thing ends up fixing itself and becoming positive. It's important to be able to recognize that you are at least slightly biased towards that. That's going to wrap it up for this one though. As always, again, I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you all next time. Later.